Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nic unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Hello, Tradies and Business listeners. I got you.
Oh, you got in there, and then I didn't want to mess it up, and we did anyway.
I was planning to beat you this morning.
Oh, is that why you've had like 3 coffees, just so you're all charged up and ready to crush me?
I absolutely had 3 coffees. See, I've had so many coffees, I can't say coffee, I'm saying copy. And yes, I've had 3 ready to crush you or my goal of beating you. And
you've just Chucky Norris'd into how to kick your goals in the ghoulies, I'm calling it.
Yeah, I think that's a little rough. I think you should just kick him in the bum. You
don't like it rough?
I'm not going there, Warwick. It's Thursday morning.
I tried to draw you in, but it didn't work.
No.
So, yes, we're talking about how to crush your goals, but even that seems a bit violent, Coxie.
Oh, look, I don't mind giving goals a good crushing. That works for me.
All these terms for doing well seem to involve violence, like crushing your goals or kicking it in the guts. There's so many ways to describe doing well that seem to be a bit violent and physically abusive.
I have never actually thought of it that way, and I don't know what rabbit hole this is going to take us down. But you make a very valid point. They are very aggressive, aren't they? Maybe that's what's required, or maybe that's what we think is required.
Well,
some aggression
I like
to get
that
to our goals.
Bit. Maybe we think we have to be violent in order to achieve our goals.
Or aggressive, at least.
Yeah, maybe not violent.
At Tradies in Business, we don't condone violence.
No, but perhaps it's that idea that it's the struggle, right? It's that idea that, we've just, we've got to really grind and push and use our body and muscle our way through all this stuff. The reality is a lot different to that.
It is, but I don't think it's something that you realise until you get a bit of an understanding about why some of the things we bang on about are so important. It does feel like a grind. It does feel like a struggle. Even some of the things you and I talk about in our goals for Tradies in Business feel like a grind and a struggle until you break it down. I want to do a dance
now. But there are some ways to make it easier, simpler.
Yeah, absolutely.
To achieve your goals. And I wanted to talk today about specifically achieving business goals, right? Mm-hmm. So whenever we talk to people in business, Coxie, it's very common when we say, so what are your goals? That they reference that in terms of, well, I want to increase my turnover to $500,000 a year or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's this numerical measurement of whether or not our business is the way we want it to be. So I guess what I wanted to do was unpack that a little bit and just, I suppose, share a bit of an example, actually. And I won't name any names of one of our tradiepreneur clients who are actually crushing it and kicking it in the guts and just smashing it out of the park. What's that?
Aggressively.
Yeah. But they haven't, actually. They've done it very peacefully and calmly. There's been a bit of stress, of course.
Naturally.
But they are actually getting some great results. And a lot of it has come from testing and measuring and knowing their numbers.
It's such an important, overlooked part of what we do in business. I don't think there's ever been a drawing board first month or 2 session where we haven't sat down with our clients and that's one of the first things we're asking them all to do. One of the very first things so that they have the power of that knowledge. Because without that knowledge, you can't actually make effective decisions in your business, whether it's a decision to get you closer to a goal or whether it's a decision to look at how to make a change or bring on a team member or where to spend your advertising money. You can't make any of those decisions if you don't have the knowledge and the information required to do so.
And it's almost like a little magic trick that I like to do with people. So you take a big goal like increasing turnover by 50%. So let's say you're going to go from 500,000 turnover last year to 750,000 in the coming year, which is a pretty big goal. And most people would look at that and go, whew, geez. But there's a way to perform a little magic trick on it to make it really simple. Are you ready? I'm going to get out my magic wand.
Do we need a wand and a hat and a rabbit?
Yes, a hat and a rabbit. I'm going to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Let's do it.
So the magic trick is to break it down into little tiny pieces, which is nothing new. You've heard that before, and that's okay. But the technique is to actually look at something that you can do on a daily basis, something you can actually wrap your head around day to day, because a $250,000 increase in turnover is a fair bit in anybody's language, or a 50% increase. We're going to go half again on our revenue, and hopefully profit is part of that goal setting. But what we can do is actually bust that down to say, well, how many jobs do I need to do next week for customers?
Yes.
And that's all you've got to think about is how many jobs do I need to have booked this week and next so that I hit my goal?
The problem sorry.
Yeah, no, you go.
The problem with goals is that they can so often become polarizing and we can't figure out how to get to where we want to be. So just as you've referenced, trying to increase your turnover by 50% sounds massive. I don't even know. That's a great lofty goal, but I don't know how I'm going to do that. So I'm probably never going to take a step. However, if you have that knowledge of understanding, okay, I've been testing and measuring the jobs that I do on a weekly basis in my business for a period of time. So I understand the mean average of a job to me, what that looks like to me. It might be $1,000 a job. It might be $2,000 a job. Obviously, depending on your business and what you're doing. With that knowledge, you can very quickly then understand, okay, well, that equates to that $250,000 increase in revenue equates to 150 more jobs. And I need to get those 150 more jobs over the next 52 weeks. So how many jobs does that look like a week? And how many leads do I need? Because again, you'll have all of that knowledge if you've been testing and measuring. How many leads do I need to generate that? And where is my best source of generation? Is it from my Facebook marketing? Is it from my Instagram? Is it from Google AdWords? Is it Google My Business? Is it my website? Is it a referral program I need to bump up? You suddenly have all of that knowledge through a simple skill like testing and measuring within your business, and it makes your goal achievable rather than getting bogged down in it thinking that's huge and I actually don't know how I'm going to get there, which, goodness me, I've done many times. A lofty goal is a great idea, but it can polarize you and get you stuck rather than moving you forward.
Yeah. And one of the keys there is to have that historical data so we can make plans for the future.
Yes.
Based on what's achievable. And one of the big blockages to people achieving their goals is actually a belief that it's achievable. Because they look at that 50% increase and go, well, that'd be great. And that means we could take a holiday and upgrade the car. And, well, you can camp in your backyard at the moment. But, I could take a domestic holiday. Or if you're in Tasmania, you could take a Tasmanian holiday because we're not allowed anywhere else. But it seems unachievable to people and they go, oh, well, it's unrealistic. Well, it's not that it's unrealistic. It's just that you perhaps haven't given yourself enough information to be able to bust it down, as you were saying, Nick, into smaller bits. And you know what it's like? When I used to do triathlons many years ago, excuse me, I'm choking up just thinking about it. Stupid as I was, but doing bigger races that went for several hours. I remember doing some work with a personal trainer and a running coach, and what we used to do was set, if you were going to run 20 kilometers, that's a long way to run and it goes for a long time.
Yes.
And it's really hard to focus on your pace and to manage your energy output and all that sort of stuff. And so what they get you to do is actually pick a mark along the road or the trail and, similar sort of distance. And it's like, righto, just hit that mark. And that means push hard between here and the next telegraph pole.
Yep.
and then back off for another telegraph pole gap, and then push hard to the next one. And so you can run these intervals. You can actually, chew up the miles pretty quickly, manage your heart rate, all that sort of stuff. But instead of, getting lost in the science of my heart rate and setting alarms and all that sort of stuff, it was just a quick, easy way for someone to manage their pace.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a convoluted example, but it's the same with that 50% increase in your revenue and your profit. If you break that down into, well, just book 10 jobs next week.
Yes.
And then maybe look at the week after that and make sure you've got at least 5 in that week before you get to the end of this week. That's all you got to do. Because we know you're probably going to average your $2,000 a job or whatever it might be, depending on your trade. And your number might be book 1 job next month. But it's just something like short. It's something close that we can look at and go, well, yeah, I can probably do that. I could go find 10 jobs next week. And it also raises some questions, Coxie, about, okay, well, what do I need to do to actually book those 10 jobs in? If the phone's not ringing enough, you can ask yourself some questions. Well, how do I get more inquiries so I can book those 10 jobs? Everything becomes about getting those 10 jobs booked, which means you don't have to talk about fancy marketing strategies and leads budgets and all those sorts of things and get all confused and overwhelmed. It's a simple thing that creates activity in other areas in your business. And if you just keep doing that, okay, 10 jobs. Right, I need some more inquiries. Hey, love, can you do some more social media stuff for me? Because I wasn't calling you love, Coxie. I was stepping into character there. Hey, love, can you do some more social media? I need some more inquiries.
Because every tradie sounds like that.
No, that's what I sound like on a Saturday night after half a whiskey.
Sorry to all the tradies that Warwick has just managed to offend.
But you can ask your misso to do some more social media marketing to generate some more leads, or you might start doing email marketing. So I'll give that a go. Well, let's have a crack at flyer drops or neighbor calls, or maybe I'll go join a networking group. And all the while, you're tracking how many inquiries you're getting and how many of those you're converting into jobs next week.
So let's talk about what we actually need to track. Because, these are lofty things for us to say. They sound like a fantastic idea, and I can see all our tradies at work listening to our podcast thinking, this is brilliant, I'm going to start tracking stuff, but what do I track? Well, let's start with your leads. Now, it's not as simple as just counting, oh, I got a phone call. Yep, that's 1. Oh, I got an email. That's 2. Oh, got another call. That's 3. It's more like, okay, thank you for calling us today. Can I ask how you found us? So you're registering how the inquiry came to you and then where the inquiry first heard about your business. Was it through a mate who had some work done, or was it through one of your social media channels, or was it through some flyer dropping that you'd done previously, or the signage on your ute, or standing in line, they saw your uniform and realised that they'd give you a call rather than some of the competition. Once you have those few pieces of information, you actually have a whole bunch of knowledge to begin to make critical decisions on. So measure your leads, how many are you getting, where they're coming from. Are they coming from email, telephone, a web inquiry form, social media messaging, and where they originally heard about you. Those 3 things, though, have a huge amount of power for you to make some critical decisions on later. Then we need to start measuring the value of your average job. So if you were to add up all of your jobs over the last month to a total sum and divide it by how many of those jobs there were, you'll get an average. Do the same over a period of time so that you understand what your job average cost is worth to you as a business owner. That will begin to give you some more power about understanding, okay, well, I want to increase my revenue. I need to get 10 more jobs a week. It's quite simple. So there's 4 things I've given you there that are really quick and easy to start to measure.
And that's the key, is they are quick and easy to measure.
Yes.
You don't need to spend hours on this.
No, and you're having those conversations anyway, and this is something we talk about all the time. You are already having these conversations. You're already taking the inquiry. It's if you're not asking the question, it's one extra question. If you are asking the question and not recording it, then it's just recording the information that you're already being provided. It's not a bunch of extra work, and yet it provides so much power for you to move forward in the business and make those critical decisions that get you to your goals, rather than them being big scary monsters that sound fantastic and you wish they would come, but wishing alone isn't enough.
No, you've got to hit some things, right? You've got to hit the next telegraph pole
Aggressively.
Well, preferably not, because it hurts when you do that.
It does.
So, I feel like a lot of people in this space, business trainers and consultants and all that sort of stuff, make goal setting and planning sound a lot more complicated than it actually is.
I agree.
And I think a lot of people get scared of setting goals because, and someone actually said this to me recently, one of our clients said this, that it almost becomes counterproductive because they feel like they're just not going to achieve the goals, and then they're going to be all demoralized and beaten down, and it's going to be actually pointless.
I actually think that's a really valid fear that a lot of our tradies struggle with.
So they just don't set goals because, well, why would I set goals? Because I don't achieve them anyway.
Yes.
And then that's just going to make me feel like crap. So best that I don't set them. I'll just work really, really hard, hope for the best, see what we get, and that'll probably be okay. And that's, look, it's not a terrible way to do it, but it's certainly not the best way to do it. And if you do want more, if you want to achieve more, then you really need to set some goals or intentions, whatever you want to call them. But the missing part is just this breaking it down into the steps, breaking it down into something you can focus on. And I find a really good one, particularly for any trade other than a builder who's doing a higher number of jobs or projects. If you're not doing $100,000, $200,000 projects, you're doing, 5, 10, 20 jobs a week. I mean, we've got trade businesses probably doing 50 jobs a week of smaller number. Knowing what that number is means you can actually then start to make some really simple decisions about marketing and lead tracking and all those other things that all start to fall into place. So, yeah, I'd really like to see more tradies doing that, of setting that small weekly focus as a way to achieve their goals, whether it's financial or otherwise. You can use that same technique with just about anything in your business that you're trying to change. So, I feel like that's a little magical technique that not a lot of people know about or use. Maybe they know about it, but they haven't figured out how to use it yet.
You've pulled the rabbit out of the hat. I'm feeling amazed by the power of your magic, Warwick.
Look, no hands.
No.
If you like the sound of that, listeners, and you are listening to this episode on Thursday, the 25th of June, you have a little over 24 hours before you can join in and have us actually guide you through this with a bunch of other epic trade business owners at our TIB142 event tomorrow, Friday, 26th of June, 1 p.m. Brisbane time. We're actually going to lead you through that. So we're going to help you set some goals, break them down, figure out what the little bits are, get it all on paper, and then go away and crush it for 90 days after that.
With a very detailed, broken down plan so you can actually achieve those weekly targets rather than being overwhelmed by how big the goal is and not knowing how to get there. It's something that we actually focus on every week in our toolbox talks, isn't it, Warwick? What is your one thing? What's the one thing you've been working on last week? How did you go? What's the one thing for this week? How is that looking? Do you need some help to get through that point? It can be quite as simple as that. It's unbelievable to think that just doing one thing differently or one thing more or one thing in a slightly better way than you've done before might be enough to start to move you towards your goals. But it really is. It only takes one thing a week that you're focusing on and achieving can get you there very quickly.
Yeah. And it's not scary. Well, okay, it is scary. But just because it's scary doesn't mean you can't do it.
No, that's right.
So get along tomorrow. If you're listening to this after the 26th of June, sorry if you missed it. We will be doing them again. So make sure you're part of our community, either by jumping on the website, tradiesinbusiness.com.au, or finding us on Facebook. And it's pretty easy to see that we're driving you to join the group and be a part of the community, because we'll let you know about these events as they come up. But doing some sort of structured planning where you break it down, absolutely fundamental to achieving your goals. And be scared, do it anyway, and tell me it doesn't work.
Well, that's a big call.
That's my challenge for today.
I think that you get lots of feedback saying that worked really well, Warwick, because we know, because we do it, that it does work very well.
Oh, absolutely. It just blows my mind. Something so simple. And that's generally the case, isn't it, Coxie?
Yes, it is. Simple's best. Simple's stupid.
Well, thanks for tuning in, listeners. I hope that was valuable. As always, we love creating content for you, and it helps us if you give us some feedback. So, as I said, go to the website, jump on Facebook, join the community, and let us know if you've used this technique. Has it worked for you? And if you're not, give it a try. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening.
Hooroo.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.